Sharren Haskel is the Deputy Foreign Minister of Israel and joins me now from Tel Aviv. Welcome to the program. Just on this hospital that's been struck in your country's south, several people apparently injured. Are more Iranian missiles making it through Israel's Iron Dome?
Well, there's three different layers. The Iron Dome is only eliminating one type of a threat. There's two other layers of defense where we have defense mechanism through them. But with such an enormous amount of bombardment and missiles and ballistic missiles that are being sent, some of them are not, are hitting the civilian areas. And Iran specifically, they don't look for the military targets or the IDF or the Israel Air Force targets. They are targeting civilian populated area and specifically hospitals, as we've seen this morning. This is part of their strategy. Today in Beersheba, the hospital that was hit directly, it wasn't just a single missile, there were a few of them, so we know it was targeted.
Well, I will come to the situation in Gaza shortly as well, where, of course, several hospitals have been hit and thousands of children killed since that war began. But just sticking with the conflict with Iran, does Israel want the US now to get involved?
Look, this is an Israeli operation. We had to take down a double existential threat from our nation and from our people. And so we actually operated on the last minute. We wouldn't have had another chance. Otherwise, it would have been too difficult and too dangerous for our people and for our country. As we know, Israel is the front line. When Iran calls death to the West, it calls first death to Israel and then death to America. We're considered the little devil, and America is considered the big devil. And so Israel will always be the first target of Iran. I can tell you, look, the Americans are very close allies of Israel. They were informed, and they are still informed with all of the details of the operation as well. They are working with us to defend the country. But this is an Israeli mission. This is our target. This is our needs of our country. President Trump is considering Americans' interest, and I understand that. He knows how Iran is a threat to humanity and how Iran is a serious threat to America. They're doing their consideration, but we had to take into account our interest and to make sure that we are capable of defending our people and our children.
Is it possible to remove the nuclear threat as you see it from Iran without the assistance of the United States?
Look, we have a bank of targets that should eliminate Iran's nuclear military program, to neutralize it. We are working through these targets. This will take some time, and we are capable of doing it. Whether America or Trump decides to join in, obviously with America's capability, and they're capable of doing it maybe in a shorter time with much more sophisticated or direct equipment, advanced equipment. But I have to tell you, we are looking after our interest, and we are targeting what we need to make sure that our people and our children are being kept safe from a nuclear holocaust.
But it sounds like then it could take a lot longer without the US involvement. This could drag on.
Look, we take it into consideration. What we have is a bank of targets to make sure that our interests are safe. It may take time, and the Israeli people are resilient people. We truly understand what's at stake, and what else is that we face so much devastation. We know what it means when someone is calling for your annihilation. When someone calls for your death, it results in what we've seen on the 7th of October with a carnage, a massive massacre, with the rape of women, with murdering and beheading people, burning them alive. This is what it really means to us. And so we understand that it might be difficult this period of time, but we're resilient because we understand how we need and what it means for the future generation and for our grandchildren as well to not be at that annihilation risk.
Minister, can I come to your point about Israel having to do this at the last minute and the claim from your Prime Minister that Iran was very close to developing a nuclear weapon. What is the evidence to back that claim?
Okay, so look, you know Israeli intelligence. You know what we've done also quite a few years ago with bringing the entire data from their nuclear program, military program, into Israel as well to collect intel. We have some of the best intel in the world. Obviously, I can't share with you on television everything that we know, but we are very, very accurate. The Prime Minister is very accurate in his assessment. The maximum was about 6 months, but we take into account that we don't have all the information, and it's most probably would have been much shorter than 6 months. And so we couldn't take that risk of them having a nuclear weapon that can massively destroy. You've seen what they've been doing just this week.
Isn't there an onus on the Israeli government
populations
to produce some of this intelligence that you're talking about here? Because, you know, we've seen this story before in the Middle East. And Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying for years, for decades, that Iran is very close to having a nuclear weapon. We've seen military misadventures in the Middle East in the past based on faulty intelligence, and that then leads to waves of terrorism. So can you understand some people saying, we'd like to see the evidence?
So first of all, this, a lot of our intelligence is being shared with security agency. We actually have a very close collaboration with the Australian security agencies as well. But let me remind you,
has this been shared with Australia?
2 weeks ago, it's not Israel. I'll just say, I cannot say what we can and what we can't, but I can tell you there's a very close cooperation and a very close share of intelligence as well with some of our allies.
But this is important. You've shared this intelligence information on Iran's nuclear program with Australia?
Look, I just want to tell you that it's not just about Israel's intelligence. Just 2 weeks ago, the IAEA stated and voted it with majority clearly that Iran is not just violating the agreement, Iran is producing. It has a military program. You don't need an enrichment of 60%
to be fair, the IAEA's Director General said we did not have any proof of a systemic effort to move into a nuclear weapon. And the US Director of National Intelligence said Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. It did obviously raise concerns Iran wasn't complying with its obligation, but it didn't say it had a weapon.
David, when this resolution came through, what was Iran's response? They responded in saying they're going to accelerate their program and they're going to build another nuclear reactor. Iran has been deceiving the international community for years now. Even while the Americans were negotiating them now for a couple of months about a deal, they deceived them. We've seen how they've accelerated, even during these months, even more, their military nuclear program. They have right now an amount sufficient for 10 nuclear warheads. 3 of them were produced just in recent months.
Well, we haven't seen the evidence of that.
So please, Iran is deceiving.
Okay. Well, I need to ask you about developments.
There's declarations and there's evidence for that.
Okay, well, we still haven't seen that evidence. I want to ask you about developments in Gaza. Everyone's been focused on Iran, but this week, some concerning developments in Gaza. And we know Israel is still trying to eliminate Hamas there, but according to local medics, civilians queuing up for food have been killed. Gazan health officials say 59 people were killed and more than 200 injured when an Israeli tank opened fire at a crowd waiting for an aid truck. How on earth could this happen?
So first of all, it's important to say that for the last 3 weeks, there's been many reports, many of them were misleading as well, from Hamas stating also event that didn't happen. This specific event that you're referring to, the IDF also have told me they are looking and investigating whether this actually happened or didn't happen. When I have the details, whether it did happen or not, I'll be able to share it with you.
So you're disputing this happened at all, despite the video of the aftermath?
The IDF is investigating to understand whether there was or wasn't, and if there was, what actually happened there. We've seen Hamas propaganda for the last 2 years. I I would suggest, and just a suggestion to you, to wait until we have also our investigation done to understand all of the details and what actually happened. But it's also important to understand we are still fighting Iran's proxies on 6 different fronts beside Iran. We've been fighting Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis in Yemen and in Iraq, the Shia militias. This is a multiple front war that we're fighting, including in Gaza right now.
We do see scenes of starvation in Gaza. UNICEF says more than 15,000 children have been killed there since this began. Your own former Prime Minister, Ehud Olmert, says what's happening there in Gaza, there's no plan as to what's going to happen, who should govern Gaza, how this ends. What is the end game here, the plan for the day after, as Ehud Olmert says?
David, there is no starvation in Gaza. Every report that came out was mentioning that this is a possibility for a future scenario, like an imminent threat or anything like that. It means it can happen in the future, but we're monitoring it up closely. But what's more important than that, David, look, to be honest, what is happening is heartbreaking. There isn't a way to picture a clean war or to describe a war in a positive way. A war is a horrible thing. It's a devastating thing.
And this one's been dragging on now for 20 months.
And hold on,
just to finish here,
David,
this has been 20 months trying to defeat Hamas.
Please let me finish.
How can you defeat Iran quickly?
David, look, first of all, it's important to understand we never wanted that war. Matter of fact, we tried to do everything in order to prevent this war. Before the first IDF soldier went into Gaza, it took almost 3 weeks when we told Hamas, disarm and return our hostages, and there won't be a war. And they refused. Just a few days ago, now, Witkoff put the 3rd proposal for a ceasefire so that they can return a hostage deal. And we said yes for the 3rd time as well, going towards the demands of Hamas. And Hamas hasn't replied until now. Well, it refuses to do that twice before. This is on responsibility of Hamas. And this is Hamas's doing, unfortunately. And we are stuck with trying to defend our children and our community from a death cult that is burning people alive, raping women and murdering children. That's our reality. We live in a tough neighborhood, David, and there isn't an easy way or a pretty way to actually describe it.
Deputy Foreign Minister, we will have to leave it there. We're out of time, but thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.